Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Cambium Network's LINKPlanner Updates webinar. My name is David Hensley. I am an engineer with the LINKPlanner team, and we're going to get started in about a minute. We want to honor everyone's commitment to being on time, but we also want to give everyone about a minute in case they're having technical difficulties joining the webinar. So give me another minute or two. Okay, it looks like we've hit critical mass. Again, this is a Cambium Network's LINKPlanner Updates webinar. My name is David Hensley. I'm an engineer with the LINKPlanner team. Wanted to let you know that this webinar will be posted on our YouTube page and our community, and the slides will also be posted on the community as well, in case you'd like to have access to the slides and review them after the webinar. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the webinar window. I am presenting and looking at the questions, so I may not get to them immediately. I suspect this will go fairly quickly. Inadvertently, I'll probably talk way too fast, and then we'll get to the end and look at any other questions. But feel free to ask questions when they come up, and I'll do my best to look at the window when I need to. So what we're going to talk about today are the products that are supported, the complete list of products that LINKPlanner supports, the new features we've added Q3 and Q4 last year, a simplified point-to-multipoint design process, and then we have kind of a teaser. We're going to let you know what's coming soon in this year. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll have a question and answer session. This is the list of products that are supported in LINKPlanner. It's divided up into point-to-multipoint products and point-to-point products. If you go directly to the bottom, you can see we support the full lineup of ePMP, PMP 450, and then also high-capacity multipoint for the PTP 670, 700 series. In addition, CN Reach is supported for point-to-multipoint. That's the N500 you see there. Then if we go up in the slide, we've divided the point-to-point products into sub 6 gigahertz and also licensed. And you can see the sub 6 gig, it's similar, ePMP, the 450, 670, 700, and then also CN Reach. And then finally, we support PTP 820 products primarily. Notice the bold text at the bottom of the slide. We continue to support obsolete Cambium products. Why do we do that? Well, it's because people use LINKPlanner to plan their networks, and the networks, they stay up for a long time, and people still need to be able to determine the performance of their network long after the products have been improved and perhaps obsoleted. So next we'll talk about new features. This is what we've added for the PMP 450 in the third and fourth quarters of 2018. We added 3 gigahertz 450M Medusa, uplink multi-user MIMO. We increased the 450M EIRP levels for downlink beamforming. That should improve performance slightly. And then we've also added both point-to-multipoint and point-to-point capabilities for you to plan with the mid and high gain 450B products. And then we've also added support for minimum and maximum modulation modes. For unlicensed, we've added point-to-multipoint 406 to 470, the CN Reach 450 band, and then also the CN Reach 700 megahertz band. In addition, we added a capability to do channel planning when you have a transmit-receive difference that is either any, which means it's not a set value, or unpaired, which means the transmit-receive pair are set to, or transmit-receive frequencies are set to the same value. We also added CMM5 to PTP 650. And then we obsoleted some PTP 700 light parts and kits, and it's now a little bit easier to plan with 700 since there are fewer parts and kits. We also added CN Pilot in the BOM estimator. You'll note that we support all of the products that Cambium Networks has to offer. Not all of them we use as a planning, for example, but we can. We have capabilities to add products into the bill of materials, and so if you are an enterprise person and you're looking at CN Pilot and saying, what does LINKPlanner offer me? Well, we allow you to easily create a bill of materials for CN Pilot. We've added these two products. For PTP 820, that is the licensed microwave products for point-to-point, in the third and fourth quarter of 2018, we added a high-power version of the PTP 820C. We added unit redundancy capabilities for the 820G. This allows you to plan a point-to-point link with the 820G and not have a single point of failure. We added 24 gigahertz capability for FCC and Canada regions. And then we also added a single Ethernet MC-ABC to the 820G. The C had it, and we added it to the G. In addition, we made some changes to the way that cable drops and surge suppression and so forth are put into the bill of materials, and we've made it consistent across several of the platforms for the C, the CHP, and the S. One of the biggest changes was that if the antenna heights are longer than 90 meters or 295 feet, we automatically switch to fiber cable. So give that a try and you can see what changes we've made. Some general features that we've added. For the point-to-multipoint products, we've added the ability to change the subscriber module transmit power limit. So if you have some subscribers that are close in, and you want to limit their power, perhaps for interference purposes, self-interference purposes, or power control, you can do that. We also, in the best server analysis, which I'm going to talk about in just a bit, we added the capability to choose between the actual subscriber site height or a fixed height that's in the subscriber default. So that is, we think, will be powerful. You'll have to let us know what you think. And then an additional feature we added for point-to-multipoint was when you're adding new subscriber modules to an access point, we added this subscriber module count. Access points can only support a certain number of subscriber modules. You know, that number is not infinite. And when you're adding new subscriber modules with this window, we want you to be able to know where you are with respect to your limits. And so it'll give you this count, and that'll give you a better idea, because the window is a limited size. We can't show, all 120 subscribers, let's say, that might be available. So we give you that count to give you a better idea of where you are with your limit. We also added a new proposal report, and what it does is combine the point-to-point and point-to-multipoint proposals together in one single file. We added user-defined antennas to support vertical and horizontal polarization. So now you can add a user-defined antenna that's only vertical or only horizontal. And then this will show up when you are planning a network. If you have a vertically polarized link, the vertically polarized antennas will show up as well, and the horizontal ones won't, for example. We replaced the UGPS with CN Pulse. And then finally, one of the major things we did in 2018 was we changed our support email address to be something slightly more friendly, and that is just LINKPlanner@cambiumnetworks.com. There are a couple of ways that you can provide us with feedback or ask for assistance. One of the ways is to use this support email address, and you might think that just goes into the bit bucket and that we ignore those, but that is not the case at all. There are a team of people who get these emails when they are sent, and we respond to them same day, usually same hour that we receive them. And it's a good way to privately ask a question. Some of the networks that you work on are proprietary in nature, and you don't want everyone to know that you've got a particular issue or what have you. And so that is a way for you to privately ask for help. The other way you can ask for help is to go on our community forum, and we have a LINKPlanner forum, and you can ask general questions there as well. But keep in mind, when you ask those questions, everybody sees them. It's very helpful for us because if you have a question about how LINKPlanner works, one of the things you should do first is go to that forum and see if anyone else has had a similar question. And that'll save you time, and it'll save us time as well. So that's one of the reasons why we have the forum there, so that everyone can see what. Well, it's a way for everyone to see, perhaps where people are struggling, and it's a good way to suggest enhancements to LINKPlanner. If we know that there's a group of people struggling or need a group of people who need a particular change, we can make those changes. So, simplified point-to-multipoint design process.
Hi, Dave. Just before you continue with that, we've got a question in from Felix about our old Canopy and Orthogon product lines. Great question. I think you'll find that a lot of those products are now obsolete, but our current product lines are all built on that basis, and using those original products you've loved and enjoyed having out there. That original DNA is still in the 450 line, for example, and our new 670, 700 PTP products are all based on the Orthogon PTP products you've been using. So you might not find the numbers there that you've been used to seeing, but the current products that are out there are all very heavily based on those products, and just advanced and taken on from there. So yep, they're all in there. Sorry, Dave, carry on.
Thank you. I didn't quite see that question, so I'm going to have to. I will get to that when we get to the end. Keep interrupting me. Thank you very much. All right. Simplified design process. So you might chuckle. Those of you who are used to using LINKPlanner, you might chuckle and say, "Oh, you've got to be kidding! Simplified design process? What is this all about?" LINKPlanner is very powerful. Any tool that is very powerful can sometimes be difficult to use or sometimes difficult to learn. And we have come up with what we think is a much simplified process. Maybe each one of the steps are a little bit complicated, but bear with me, take a look at this process and see what you think. Here it is in 5 easy steps. And what we're assuming here initially is that you have an idea of where your network and subscriber sites are located. So you start with that idea, let's say. And the idea is to take those sites, import them into LINKPlanner, Then what you want to do before you start connecting, access points to subscribers and determining where you want access points to be, what we want you to do is decide what types of equipment you're going to use, and how you want them to be configured in a very basic fashion. So you're going to set up a template, and I know that's a rush to go in, the first time and set up equipment templates, but bear with us. Those templates, what they do is they save you a ton of time. Every new access point to subscriber module link that's set up will then use that template. And so this will save you, again, a ton of time because it's going to use that configuration for every new link that you put in. And it doesn't have to be of one particular type of product either, as you'll see. Then what you'll do is add new hubs, and then we have an automated way of connecting access points to subscriber modules. And what that'll do is for every subscriber module in your system, it will determine, hey, which access point could serve that subscriber module best. So it runs what's called a best server analysis, and you have some options and some choices to make. And then finally, once you've done that and you've taken some notes, it may not run perfectly the first time, but it's an iterative process. You may find that there are a few subscriber modules or access points that are problematic, but what it will do is highlight the problems, and that's what you want to focus on. Is oftentimes when we're doing these wireless networks, we want to focus on the most difficult links first, and kind of let the easy ones take care of themselves. So you want to know, hey, where are my problem areas? Well, this will help you find that. And then finally, we have a capability for you to add channel plans, and that is optional. So let's dive in. This is the first step, importing your network or subscriber sites. Now, we've included this because it's very similar to how you would do this in a point-to-point scenario. The manual way to do this is just to enter the latitude and longitude directly. So what are you going to have to enter? Well, the name of the site, the maximum height, and then the latitude and longitude. And keep in mind that if these formats are not the way, if you're not accustomed to using a decimal latitude and longitude, you can go under Tools, Options, and you can change the format of the latitude and longitude. You can also change the maximum height from meters to feet or feet to meters. And this would allow you to enter those sites directly. However, if you have, let's say, a spreadsheet or a KML file with all of your sites in them, you've been using Google Maps or Google Earth to put in your sites, that may be an easier option. And I've got that description on the next slide. You can also import point-to-point and point-to-multipoint links from a CSV file, a comma-separated value spreadsheet, which includes the site location. What is LINKPlanner looking for, though? It's looking for the name, the height, that is the maximum height of the antenna, and also a latitude and longitude. So let's look at the wizard. Now, what you'll see here is you'll see an option under File Import. So it's File Import, and follow that first arrow on the left. And you would choose network sites from a comma-separated value table or subscriber sites. The first thing that the wizard is going to show you is actually in the back here. It's Select Data Delimiter and Encoding. And so if you have a different data delimiter, like if you're not using a comma-separated value but you're using tabs to separate your values, the wizard will help you with that, and also your encoding. Sometimes you're not going to know that LINKPlanner is struggling with the encoding until you get to this next setting. And when you hit the next button, what will show up is LINKPlanner is going to ask you which columns you want to import. And so again, what is it looking for? It's looking for the name, the latitude, the longitude, the maximum height, and then any sort of description. And so if your encoding and data delimiters aren't quite right, this won't look quite right. And what you may have to do is hit the back button. In any case, once you get to this columns and the columns look reasonable, notice that if you have included name, latitude, longitude, and maximum height in your table, you can skip that first row, and you just tick this box right here to skip the first row. The other thing that you may want to change is if you're accustomed to using a maximum height in feet, you may want to change this maximum height from maximum height in meters to maximum height in feet. Notice that in this particular case, we are not in North America. The latitude is north and the longitude is east. So, and also notice that it looks like we've used degrees, minutes, seconds in this particular format. You hit the next button, and then what will happen is your sites will show up on the map, and you can review those on the map. You notice that you will import the network sites in a different step from the subscriber sites. Those we need to differentiate, and so that's a two-step process there. Anyway, this should save you, like I said, a ton of time. And here's what it looks like once you've imported them. Now, let's go back a little bit because we've got a couple of other imports here that you need to know about. This is where you can import PTP links or PMP links from a comma separated value table. You also have an option to import network and subscriber sites from Google Maps or Google Earth. And that wizard is slightly faster. There aren't as many steps. In any case, the end result is that you get a map that looks like this. And you will see subscriber sites and network sites on your map. And you can review it and see whether or not it passes the sanity check. Sometimes if you get stray, well, yeah, let's tell you, what could possibly go wrong? Well, here's an example. If you have somehow inadvertently entered 00 for a latitude longitude, your map will be very, very small because it tries to show all the data points. And so what you need to do is if your map doesn't look right, go back and take a look at your subscriber list or your network sites list and see if there are any values in there that aren't quote unquote real. 00 is not a typical site location. Things of that nature will tend to pop up. If your map doesn't look quite right, that's where you should go back and explore.
Hi Dave, we've got another question in which relates to the Google Maps that we can see at the moment, and that's about whether or not we're ever going to be able to view Google Maps on a Mac like we can on the PC. I'm afraid this one's actually not down to us, it's down to our friends Apple, who don't like to support Google. So if Apple actually get to the point where they'll allow us to support Google Maps on a Mac, then we will look at adding it in, but I'm afraid at the moment our hands are tied on that one.
Excellent question. Thank you. Okay, so you're getting a little bit nervous, but I want you to bear with me. We've just added the network sites and the subscriber sites, and here's why you're getting nervous, because what you want to start doing is connecting the dots. You want to start designing your access points and telling LINKPlanner which subscribers are going to connect with which access points. That may be fine if you're designing a small network, maybe one access point and maybe 10 subscriber modules. But if you're designing a large network with many access points and many subscriber units, that's going to take you a long time. And so what we'd like to suggest is that you create a template. And what this will do is it will allow you to connect automatically subscriber modules to access points. And by automatic, I mean when you make that connection, it will automatically choose the values in this template. And so what you do is you create this PMP equipment template, and that's down at the bottom left under project configurations, and you can see it highlighted and circled there with circles and arrows. You want to give that template a name or a title. so that if you've got a couple of them, you can differentiate between them. And then you would go ahead and select the AP parameters that are pertinent for your network. So you're going to choose the band, the product, the country, and any other applicable items for your particular network. A very important thing you want to consider is your SM range. That is the value that LINKPlanner will use to search for subscriber modules. So subscriber modules within that range are going to be offered to you as having the potential to connect. And then the other thing that range will determine is the size of the circle on the map that you will see later, and I'll get back to that later. Let's see, you can see the other parameters that you might want to select. Like a subscriber module received target level. Bottom line, if any of those parameters there, if you don't want to end up changing each one of those individually for every access point in your network when you start out, then set it once here, and then every time you add a new access point, this will automatically be configured for you. So it's a time saver. Then what you do is set up your subscriber module equipment. And the parameter list is a little bit shorter. You will set a default subscriber product, and then you may want to update the performance parameters. I mean, we've assumed the best defaults here. You may also want to add optional extras for the access point bill of materials or the subscriber module bill of materials. And this is where you can do that. And again, this will save you a lot of time so that you won't have to do it for each and every individual access point or subscriber module. Step 3, add new hubs. So a hub is like a container where you put access points. And you're going to add the new hubs, adjust any parameters as required, and then select your network sites for each one of those hubs. Now, this is where you tell LINKPlanner how many access points per hub, then your starting azimuth. Do you want it to be pointing, due north, which is 0 degrees, the separation angle between access point antennas, and then again your range units and your subscriber module range. This shows you what the map looks like after you've added the new hubs. And you can see, what have we got going on in here? Well, each one of those access points has 4 sectors. The first sector starts at 0 degrees, so it's pointed due north. There's 90 degrees of separation between the access points. And then what we've selected is a 4-kilometer SM range. And so this is not a coverage map or a heat map or anything of the sort. It just gives you an idea of where LINKPlanner will look to connect some of those subscriber modules. What else can I tell you about this? Oh, they're all the same color, which means they're all using the same frequency, or we haven't chosen a frequency. So this is what it looks like, again, after you've added the new hubs. And it gives you kind of an initial starting point as to where some of these subscriber modules will eventually connect. And you can kind of get an idea. I can see a few of these subscriber modules that are kind of on 90 degree or look to be very close to 90 degree borders. So we'll see where those end up connecting. So your next step is to run best server analysis. And again, think about this is something I struggled with when I was first learning this. Think about what the title means. It means for every subscriber module, well, first of all, every subscriber module has a server. What is that server? It is the access point. So what I'm doing is finding the best access point for a given subscriber module. This particular program is located under, again, project configuration. It's right under where you set up the point-to-multipoint equipment templates. And you just left-click on that, and then what you'll see is, again, in LINKPlanner, everything is starting from left, going to right, and then starting from the top, going down. So where do we want to start? We want to start in the upper left-hand corner. This will show you all of the families that are in your network, all the product families that are in your network. In this particular instance, we just have one. It's the 450 family. It will ask you, what is the target subscriber module mode that you want? What's the modulation mode that you want to target for every subscriber module? And then there is a fade margin that you can enter in. So you should definitely experiment with this. For example, if you put in a 10 dB fade margin for all of your subscriber modules, what you'll find is that not every one of your subscriber modules can connect. If you lower it down to 0 dB fade margin, hopefully most of your subscriber modules will be able to connect. But what you may want to do is be a little bit conservative and give some additional fade margin. That's where you do that. Another option you have here is the antenna height. You can set the antenna height for the subscriber module to be the same across every subscriber module in your network, or we've given you an option to use the subscriber height. Now, this is something perhaps we should have remarked on when you were importing your sites in that spreadsheet or that comma-separated value table. Those subscriber heights might be different. They might not all be defaulted to 10 meters. You may have some that are on top of buildings, some that are on top of skyscrapers, whatever, what have you. In the best server analysis, we allow you to actually use that subscriber height. So if you want something that might be a little bit more accurate, a little bit more friendly, go ahead and tick that box. So the next thing you need to consider is the products that you're going to use for the subscriber module. And this is crucial. You want to make sure that the products that you are most likely to use are at the top of that list. And what you can do is tick, if one of your products is at the bottom of the list, like PMP 450i, well, how do I get it to the top? Well, tick that box and then hit the up arrow, down arrow keys or buttons in that red window there. And that will allow you to move the 450i up if you're using that. But definitely, if you're planning to use the high gain, the 450B high gain product, make sure that's at the top of the list. Before we go any further, let's look at the results summary, because what you're going to do is you're going to be all excited. You want to hit the button and let it do all the work for you. Before you do that, make sure that you understand what the results are telling you. So LINKPlanner will give you a count of the number of subscriber places that you have, a number of connected places, and then a number that are able to connect. And then there's this NMR and OOR. What does that mean? Well, there will be, or there may be, some subscriber modules that don't, some links that don't meet the requirements. They might not have sufficient fade margin. They might not be able to connect with the given modulation mode, or they may not, the margin, the fade margin may be too high. They may be a non-line of sight link that will not work, and so they're just not meeting the requirements. So we give you a count of that. In addition, there's a count for the subscriber modules that are simply just out of range, and that has to do with the SM target range parameter that you set. When you run the tool, it will highlight individual subscriber modules with problems like not meeting requirements or out of range. That doesn't, those don't necessarily need to be fixed, at this time, or perhaps not at all. Those just may not ever work, and you may have to come up with another solution. In any case, don't be overly concerned about that report, but just note that you're going to want to look at those particular subscriber modules, those links, and those access points to see if perhaps you can find a different setting or a different configuration. So when you're ready, you want to hit left click on that Go button, and then it will go ahead and identify the best server for your subscriber modules. And I think we've got another page coming up. Here we go. So this is the next page. This is the results page. And again, don't ignore the results summary. It's over on the far right, and so sometimes your eyes are kind of interested in what's going on below. But take a look at what's going on the right first. Take a look at those that are not meeting the requirements or out of range, because you may want to focus on those first. We recommend that you save those results to a spreadsheet and then take note of it. And if you've got a really long list, that spreadsheet will help you find them quickly. Once you're happy with the results, I mean, let's just take a look at this. What have I got in this table? I've got a name of all the subscriber modules, the height, and it looks like the height here was all the same. So it looks like all of the subscriber modules were actually using 10 meters. I've got a list of which access point is best for that subscriber module, and then the product that we're using, the fade margin, an antenna gain, and then we've also got some second choices to consider as well. And then you can see this one over here that's been highlighted with an NMR. That tells you that it did not meet the requirements. In any case, once you're happy with the results, go ahead and create, and then LINKPlanner will connect those access points to those subscriber modules. And I believe the next slide shows the map as to what it looks like. Here we go. So the PMP network is now created, and you may want to further optimize it by adding a channel plan. And now is really when you can go in and start looking at the channel plan, individual links. You can examine, well, why did LINKPlanner choose this particular access point over another access point? I mean, in this case, well, okay, on the access point on the far right, it's somewhat obvious as to which subscriber modules should be connected. But once you get in the denser regions, what you'll want to do is zoom in on those and see what LINKPlanner decided to do. This will allow you also to, again, look at different links in the terrain. Okay, so if you want to create a channel plan,
Dave, just before we move on to the channel plans, could we just take in a couple more questions?
Oh yes, of course.
I've got a question in from somebody asking about what a hub is. So a hub at one point is just a container. It's the site and contains the site coordinates of where all the access points are that are on that same location. So you could just think of it as being that when you're running a PTP link, we have the network sites at the endpoints. But to actually get into the PMP side of LINKPlanner, we need to say, well, actually, I want that network site to be used for PMP. So I'm going to make it a hub, and then that hub becomes a point where we can group a lot of access points. We can also see the equipment that's used at that network site. So we group together all the equipment. We can look at the equipment individually at the BOM level just for an access point, but we can also look at it at the hub level. So you can build an equipment list that you can give to your installers and say, this is all the kit that you need to go and take to that particular site to build out all the access points you're going to put on that site. So that can be very useful. Also in the reports, we group together the throughput. So you can see a higher level grouping of the amount of total throughput. So if you need to backhaul the throughput off that site, you can get an idea then of how much capacity is coming out in total from that site. Not to put too much of a spoiler onto stuff that Dave's going to come on to, but as we move on to some of our newer products coming in, they're going to have more functionality that's also going to be related at the hub level rather than at an individual access point that looks in just a specific direction at a specific frequency. So that's kind of where we use the hub from. We also had a follow-up question about the Google Maps and asking whether we could use other types of map like Bing Map, because in some parts of the world the Google Maps haven't been updated for quite some time. I'm afraid at the moment we don't have the option to change those maps, but thank you for the suggestion. We'll take a look at it and see whether or not we can build in any other options. We also have another great question in about whether or not we can calculate the minimum per SM height using the best server. That's a great challenge to have. I think at the moment that would be quite a tight, it's all right if we're only working with a handful of subscribers, but if we've got to iterate every single one of them down to the minimum height required to get that, it's going to take that process a long time to run through. So it's not something we can run in, but you can run it by setting the, if you want to set a flat height for, instead of using the subscriber side height, but set the antenna height, you can run it at 2 or 3 different heights and see whether or not how many sites are dropping out. So if that NMR count goes up, you're starting to hit the threshold for some of those sites that can't actually meet it at that height. So that's a way you can play around with it, but it's we're not optimizing at the moment to actually find the minimum height for each individual subscriber. So now I'll hand you back to Dave to talk to you about the channel plans.
Okay, excellent questions and excellent suggestions. I like that, the minimum per SM height. And I am not, just so you know, I am not seeing questions. Hopefully, well, Rachel's been excellently taking care of that problem, so she is seeing them. I'm not sure why I am not seeing them. Fifth step, should you want to, you can create channel plans. It's under project configuration, and again, left to right. So it'll be under your project, under project configuration. Once you hit that, hit the Create Plans button, and then you'll be able to name each individual channel plan. It doesn't have to be called Channel Plan 1. You can put anything you want in there. And just like a lot of things in LINKPlanner, you can name that creatively and use it to help you sort things. I mean, go crazy. That's what we like to see. You will then, again, left to right, select the band, the product you're using, the country, the transmit receive spacing, channel bandwidth, and then, if required, any sort of raster. And then when you left click on CH1 for channel 1, what that'll do is give you a pull down list, and you'll select those. So you're not entering those frequencies manually. LINKPlanner goes to the trouble of telling you which channels are actually available. And then if you have several channels in your network, which you likely do, when you go to CH2, it'll show you the remaining channels. And then you can keep going to the right until you've got all the channels you need or exhausted your channels. And it takes care of figuring out, again, which channels are available. You can change the color of these channels if you like. Color coding is exceptionally important, because what it allows you to do is look at either the offline map or the Google map and determine really what's going on in your network. You can identify problems quickly. You can see, oh yeah, those 2 access points are using the same channel. That will never work. And then make changes as needed. Now, once you've got this channel plan and carefully selected the band and the product, those channel plans will automatically pop up or become available at your access points, so that you can then choose the various plans that you want to use, the various channels that you want to use. And again, you can create multiple channel plans and choose different frequencies. I think we have another slide that goes into how that pops up. So there are a couple of ways you can assign a channel to an access point. But what I initially learned was having them pop up on the access point equipment panel. And it'll show up, you'll see a channel selection, and then you'll get to choose the plan and the frequency. But there's another way to do it as well, and that is on the offline map. And if you I believe it's a right click on the access point, you can then set the channel, and then again it shows up with the various color codes. And so that may be a faster way for you to select the channels looking at the map. Now, what are some frustrations that you're going to encounter when you're doing this? Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to create your channel plan, and then you're going to go to the map, or you're going to go to the access point, and you're going to say, hey, where are my frequencies? Where did my channel plan go? And what you have to do, if that happens, if you've created it and you're all excited and it doesn't show up, what you do is you go back to your channel plan and take a close look at it. Make sure that you have selected the correct band, the correct product, and the correct country, and the correct TR spacing. All of these things must match up for that channel to pop in, because the last thing you want to do is assign the wrong channel to the wrong AP and have interference. And so we're very careful to make sure that you've got the right band, product, country, TR spacing, and so forth, channel bandwidth. So remember, all of these things have to be correct for the frequency and channel plan to show up either on this offline map or on the access point equipment panel. And that's one of the frustrations that you'll run into, is it's got to be right on the money. Once it is, though, it's incredibly powerful, because then you can start assigning channels and looking at your network from that perspective. Here's what your complete design might look like. Again, what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at a point-to-multipoint network. It looks like all of the sectors that are facing due west are one channel. All of the sectors facing due east are another channel. I have subscriber modules connected to access points. Do I have any that are not connected? I have to do a little bit deeper dive to determine that. But this is what it will look like when your design is complete. Again, I want to remind you, those circles are not areas of coverage. Those are initial attempts at, or an indication as to how far a subscriber module can be from an access point before LINKPlanner will attempt to connect it. So if it's beyond that circle boundary, it's not going to attempt to connect it. And what you may need to do is increase the SM range to get it to connect. They're not heat maps, they're not coverage maps. It's just to give you a basic idea of what's connecting where. Again, you'll definitely want to scroll in on this map to see what's going on, because those subscriber module dots are getting clustered together, and you want to look at that in greater detail. But that's what it looks like when it's complete. And we're thinking that this has saved you a ton of time. Your other option would be to have to connect all of those manually. And so this gets you started. And it also, in addition to connecting them automatically, I mean, that's one thing. But the next thing that it really does for you is it tells you, look, here are your problem links. These are the sites where you're going to need to focus and spend some more effort. Either choosing a different product, maybe adding another site. I mean, you've got a bunch of different solutions available to you, but this is where you probably want to focus so that the entire network will work for you and meet your needs. All right, let's take a look at the next slide.
And just before we get on to that, Dave, we've got some more questions coming in. Some great interaction today. So the next question coming in was, does the best server analysis take into account imported clutter from path loss and near line of sight when selecting the subscriber type? If you've imported data from path loss and you can see it on the path profiles, then yes, LINKPlanner will be taking that into account when it generates the information. Hold on, although I think I'm going to backtrack on that, because when you first do it and you're running the best server analysis goes away and finds its own profiles. So what's going to happen is that won't take into account the clutter, but what you can do is you can overwrite that data later and then see the clutter, the impact of the clutter on those paths. The second question on there was about the RF interference. Will it take into account the RF interference? So again, if you set up the interference on the base station, then and I think you can do that in your PMP equipment template. You can set up an interference for the AP and a default interference on the SM. Then at that point, you can it will take that into account. If it's not on the template, then that might be a question we have to have a look at. That no, I think yep, it's there. Thanks, Dave. That's what we were looking at. So if you tick the AP interference box and the default SM interference boxes there and set values up, that information will be taken into account in the best server analysis. And then we've got another question in here about if another company has a PMP network in the same area, is there a risk of poor performance if using the same channel? Yes, I'm afraid there is. What we don't have the capability to do in LINKPlanner is to take that into account unless you add those sites. So if you add sites, but you know, you can see it, but I mean, you would have to know how much background interference is coming from those sites and set that up on that AP interference and SM interference parameters. That's the only way we can really take account of the interference within the analysis. The other way, obviously, if you know what channels are being used, then when you set up your channel plan, you need to try and ensure that the channels you set up are not overlapping with the channels that are being used by any existing sites that are already out there. And so if you know there's somebody out there with a 10 meg channel, then you need to make sure, and you're trying to put out a 10 meg channel, then you need 10 megs of separation between those two center frequencies. If it's two 20 meg channels, then you need 20 meg separation between those frequencies. So that's a little bit, and our products have spectrum analyzer capability in them, and that's a question of using that to see what's out there, and then you can get a good idea of what's around. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellent questions again. So, drum roll, coming soon in 2019. We are working on some of the following things right now. There are other things we're working on, but we're not allowed to talk about. The first thing is EMP 3000 and Force 300-16. You very soon now, you will be able to plan an ePMP 3000 network and use Force 300-16 and Force 300-25 subscriber modules. We're also adding CN Ranger, which is an LTE product, point-to-multipoint product. And then additionally, soon in 2019, we're going to provide interoperability between ePMP 1000, 2000, and ePMP 3000. So what you'll be able to do, for example, is plop down an ePMP 3000 access point onto an existing network and then look at the network performance with existing subscriber modules. And then, of course, we need to say a few words about the LINKPlanner development process, and that is we try very hard, exceptionally hard, at providing a planning capability for the products before they are released, or at least when they are released, so that when new products are released, there is a planning capability for those products. And so just keep in mind, if you hear about new products that are being released, keep in mind that with that release will come LINKPlanner support, and that is what we work very hard to provide. Okay. Two slides and then we're done. I've talked a little bit about, you know what, let me go to this one first. I've talked a little bit about the community forum. When I was talking about how to ask questions about LINKPlanner, how to find answers when you're struggling. If you're struggling, we hope that's not the case, but if you do, you can always go to this community forum, and there's a LINKPlanner subtopic or discussion forum, and that's where you can find a lot of answers to questions. And so don't hesitate to go there. You can always ask your question in private, but you may find it answered in one of the forums. In addition, there is a knowledge base where we have some articles on how to do advanced link planning for both point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. If you have ideas as to how LINKPlanner should work or what capabilities it should have, again, you can always send us a private email to linkplanner@cambiumnetworks.com, or you can make it public and put it under the ideas section. And then if you have any stories about how wonderful LINKPlanner is, you can put it in this Your Stories as well. And then we also have, as you guys probably know, a presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We should probably get rid of that Google Plus, shouldn't we? And then Weibo. If you want to know what's going on with Cambium Networks, one of the best ways to do that is to get connected with us on Facebook or LinkedIn. And we put up a lot of news there. And so if you want to find out the absolute latest, that's where you should go. So if there are no more questions, Rachel, do we have any more questions? Or Susie, do we have any more questions?
I can't see anything else at the moment, so last chance for everybody. Get your questions in now if you have anything else.
And while we're waiting, I want to remind you that this webinar will be posted on the YouTube page and also on our community. The slides will be available as well, so that if you need to go back and use them for reference, you'll be able to download those. They may even be up there already. And then, you know what, if you think of a question or you're having a hard time formulating a question, again, get it up on the forum. We watch the forum and respond to those very quickly. You can also send an email to linkplanner@cambiumnetworks.com, and again, we watch those emails like a hawk and answer them certainly within the day, if not within the hour, because we realize we have a lot of customers out there who might need some support occasionally.
Okay, it looks like we've exhausted the questions for today.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great day.